Hey everyone, Spooky here. Running secrets for our players is a really good way to get them invested in the narrative of our game. It's a really good way to have players start wondering about each other, asking questions to each other, and through a trail of breadcrumbs that we can leave, figuring bits of the plot out. However, I want to tell you about a story where that did not go as planned for me. We have in our story 4 characters. One of them is a bard, Dodger. His name will be the only relevant one at this point. Dodger grew up in the streets of the Styes district in a large city by the coast, and found his way into sort of like a criminal band where he would play distraction while other people would rob houses. During this point, a heist goes wrong. One of his accomplices is apprehended by the son of some nobles, and Dodger, in the heat of the moment and in a sheer panic to get his friends out of there, stabs this person in the back, killing them. Now, that's a really interesting sort of piece of backstory. Dodger goes around for the next couple of years, trying to find his place in the world now that he can't be in Cedin anymore. What happens as he builds out a reputation for himself in another town is that people get wind of his existence again, and a bounty's put out on his head by the noble family. So far, this is all really interesting, but also so far, Dodger is the only person who knows this. The only information he's been getting is from one of his old friends. They've been using the sending spell. I was whispering this or noting this to Dodger outside of the player's information, and so all that the player playing Dodger would say is, Dodger looks troubled. Where I failed in this piece, and where I would probably make an adjustment, is I would be giving these messages to Dodger in front of the players. What ended up happening is this climaxed in, as they were staying in another smaller settlement, someone came in, sort of asked around for someone named Dodger. One of our players, not knowing anything, I think pretty much in character, did point him out and just said, there he is, go speak to him if you want. Yeah, easy. And from there, a fight broke out. No one knew why Dodger was being attacked, and ergo no one really had an understanding of what the stakes were. But suddenly 4 NPCs, which were modeled after heroes, were after this one character. At least it's an interesting fight. At least people got to some combat, they got some engagement, but they were left with questions. The only problem is that Dodger's a pretty tight-lipped individual for a bard. So the players were left pretty dissatisfied when Dodger refused to say anything. And with a lack of engagement in that plot thread from Dodger, who as a character wanted to leave it be and handle things as they came up, and the characters who didn't know anything about it, a pretty interesting plot thread died. It's important to understand that this wasn't the player's fault. Dodger plays a very tight-lipped character about his past, potentially to build out sort of like a source of trauma angle around a couple of the different things that happened in his character's life. This is probably something I should have foreseen coming, and it's not something that I blame the player for or the character for. This is more or less something that I should have just taken as a slight adjustment in the way that the information reached that player. Taking that into account, I think that some secrets are good to have as characters. I think most secrets that are going to end up affecting the wider plot, having some level of like small mini climax series of like altercations or any like widespread party challenges like a large fight, I think it's probably good to have some level of foreshadowing to the team ahead of time. And I think as the dungeon master, it's our responsibility to make sure that that is happening. My way of doing that would have been I would have read the sending spell out to Dodger several times. The sending spell did come from an NPC that the team knew. It would have made it interesting, it would have made it engaging, and they would have been thinking about it, but obviously they couldn't press it as their characters wouldn't know. There's a metagame aspect to how we approach the theater of the mind and how our characters are working around each other, because we obviously can't know everything. There's a lot of cues that we miss out in roleplay, especially online roleplay. And as the Dungeon Master, I think that there's an aspect where we have to fill that in. But I think that's probably the one thing that I'd really like to change in the Encroaching Wilds, outside of 2 player deaths, which suck to always happen. But rest in peace, Chadbury. Rest in peace, Raziel, and I'll see you guys later. Like and subscribe for more content. I'm going to try and get this out a little more frequently, sometimes in formats like this, sometimes something a bit better edited, hoping to have sort of an even mix and putting those out every week or so. Thanks. Bye.